Publicly, President Trump says talks with Iran are going extremely well. He's touting great progress with what he calls a new and more reasonable regime. The world is being told that a deal to end the month-long war could be coming soon. But behind the closed doors of royal palaces in Riyadh and Abu Dhabi, a very different and, according to U.S. Gulf and Israeli officials, much more desperate conversation is taking place. While the world hopes for peace, America's closest allies in the Persian Gulf are reportedly panicked about that very possibility. These officials are said to be privately pleading with President Trump to continue the fight until Iran is decisively defeated. So what's really going on? This is the story of why these leaders believe an American withdrawal would be a death sentence and what they are secretly asking Trump to do next. On the surface, it looks like the diplomats are hard at work. President Trump swings between threats and praise, one moment warning he'll obliterate Iran's oil wells and power plants, the next claiming a deal is probable and that he's in serious discussions. Intermediaries from Pakistan, Egypt, and Turkey have all met with Saudi officials trying to mediate a resolution. Iran itself has acknowledged receiving a 15-point proposal from the U.S. via these back channels, even as it publicly denies any direct negotiations are happening. To the casual observer, it looks like a classic high-stakes negotiation, with both sides posturing before an eventual settlement. But this public performance seems to mask a frantic behind-the-scenes lobbying campaign. Led by Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, Gulf allies are reportedly urging President Trump to continue the U.S.-led bombing campaign, arguing that Tehran hasn't been weakened enough. Officials from Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain have made it clear in private conversations that they don't want this military operation to end, not until there are significant fundamental changes in the Iranian leadership or a dramatic, irreversible shift in its behavior. This appears to be a stunning reversal. Just a year ago, these same leaders were telling Trump they opposed a military strike, fearing they'd be the primary targets of Iranian retaliation. They were right to be afraid. But now that the war, which began in late February 2026, has started, their calculation has changed. That fear has morphed into a conviction that this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to neutralize their existential rival. They see an Iranian leadership in chaos and its military reeling, and they're terrified that Trump will settle for a temporary peace that leaves them exposed. They believe that stopping now would be the worst of all possible outcomes. To understand this panic, you have to understand their geography. The entire economic lifeblood of the Gulf flows through one narrow choke point, the Strait of Hormuz. This 21-mile-wide passage between Iran and Oman is the transit route for roughly 20% of the world's daily oil consumption. For countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar, it's not just a shipping lane, it's their gateway to the global economy. For decades, Iran has weaponized this dependency, holding the threat of closing the strait over its neighbors' heads. Now, that threat is a reality. Since the war began, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has warned that any vessel traveling to or from the ports of the U.S. and its allies is forbidden from passage. While not a complete shutdown, the threat is credible, with numerous confirmed attacks on merchant ships and commercial traffic dropping sharply. The economic consequences have been immediate and catastrophic. Global oil prices have surged, with Brent crude repeatedly spiking past $115 a barrel. This isn't just a number on a screen. It represents what the International Energy Agency has called the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. With tanker traffic severely disrupted, Gulf producers have been forced to cut oil production by at least 10 million barrels per day. The physical attacks have made the economic threat terrifyingly real. Iran has unleashed a barrage of missiles and drones against its neighbors. For instance, a Kuwaiti oil tanker in Dubai was attacked, causing a massive fire. U.S. bases in the Gulf have not been spared, with an Iranian strike on Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia damaging several U.S. aircraft. The UAE claims it has faced over 2,300 missile and drone attacks. The Gulf states are trapped. Their limited bypass pipelines can't come close to compensating for a contested Strait of Hormuz. They are utterly dependent on U.S. military power to keep their economies from collapsing. This vulnerability is the source of their panic. They see an American administration that says one day it won't consider the war over until Hormuz is open, and the next day says a full reopening is not a core objective. For the Gulf leaders, this isn't an option. It's an existential necessity. President Trump finds himself in a complex balancing act. On one hand, he's publicly claiming that his pressure campaign is working and that he's negotiating with a more reasonable new regime in Iran. He has floated the possibility of a deal happening soon, perhaps within a week. On the other hand, he continues to issue severe threats, warning he could seize Karg Island, Iran's main oil export terminal, or even take the oil in Iran. He threatens to obliterate the country's electrical grid if a deal isn't reached shortly. This duality keeps everyone guessing. Is he preparing the world for a historic peace deal, or is he justifying a further escalation of the war? And right into the middle of this chaos step the Gulf states with what appears to be a clear, unified message. The constant Iranian attacks have forged a rally around the flag effect among the members of the Gulf Cooperation Council. While countries like Oman and Qatar still favor a diplomatic solution, the hardline bloc led by Saudi Arabia and the UAE seems to be winning the internal debate. Their reported message to Trump is unambiguous: do not stop now. They are deeply skeptical of any deal brokered at this stage. Officials from these countries have privately told the US that ending the war now won't produce a good deal that guarantees their security. They've seen this movie before. They argue the 2015 nuclear deal capped Iran's nuclear program, but left its other threatening capabilities untouched: its ballistic missiles, its drone arsenal, and its network of regional proxies. They are determined not to let that happen again. The UAE has reportedly become the most hawkish of the Gulf nations. Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has reportedly been personally advising President Trump to keep hitting the Iranians hard. This echoes the advice of the late Saudi King Abdullah, who famously told Washington to cut off the head of the snake. This new generation of Gulf leadership believes the snake has been wounded and now is the time to strike, not to negotiate its release back into the wild. Their frustration is palpable, born from a deep mistrust of an unpredictable Trump administration and a diplomatic process that they feel excludes them. So what do these Gulf leaders really want? It's not a ceasefire. It's a permanent strategic realignment of the Middle East. They are not interested in a temporary pause that allows Iran to regroup and rebuild. They want an end state where Iran is permanently stripped of its ability to threaten them. According to Gulf officials, any settlement must achieve 4 non-negotiable goals. First, the complete and verifiable neutralization of Iran's nuclear program. Second, the dismantling of its ballistic missile and drone capabilities. Third, an end to Tehran's funding for its network of proxy groups, from Hezbollah in Lebanon to the Houthis in Yemen, who have also entered the conflict by launching attacks at Israel. And fourth, a binding guarantee that the Strait of Hormuz can never again be used as a weapon of economic blackmail. Achieving these goals would require nothing short of the wholesale surrender of the current Iranian regime's core ideology or its complete removal from power. This is the endgame the Saudis and Emiratis are reportedly pushing for. They see an Iran whose navy has been severely damaged, with the US claiming to have destroyed 92% of its largest vessels. They see an air defense system that the IDF claims is over 80% destroyed. They see a leadership in chaos after the initial strike of the war killed Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. They believe that applying maximum pressure now could cause the entire structure to collapse. They are lobbying for Trump to ignore the diplomatic off-ramps and to see the military campaign through to what they consider its logical conclusion. This isn't just about security. It's about reshaping the future of the region. A post-war Iran that is defanged and reintegrated into the international community on Western and Gulf terms would unlock immense economic potential. But an Iran that survives, battered but with its strategic ambitions intact, would be a nightmare scenario, embittered, vengeful, and more dangerous than ever before. This is the future the Gulf leaders are desperately trying to avoid, and why they are reportedly telling Trump that the only way to win the peace is to first win the war decisively. This conflict isn't unfolding in a vacuum. Its shockwaves are reordering alliances and threatening the stability of the entire global economy. While the Gulf states lobby Washington, the world's second largest economy is watching with extreme anxiety. China relies on the Strait of Hormuz for a massive portion of its energy imports. The disruption to the strait poses a direct threat to its economic stability, amplifying the international pressure on the United States to resolve the crisis. Beijing has praised Pakistan's mediation efforts, urging talks to begin as soon as possible. The ultimate fear is a full-blown global energy shock. Analysts have warned that if the supply disruptions continue, oil prices could soar toward $150 or even $200 a barrel. Such a spike would almost certainly trigger a global recession, impacting every household and business on the planet. The situation on the ground remains volatile. The U.S. has now moved significant ground-capable forces, including thousands of Marines and soldiers from the 82nd Airborne Division, into the region, preparing for the possibility of escalation even as it talks of peace. Iran, in turn, has warned it is waiting to set American troops on fire. This entire combustible scenario rests on the decision of one man in Washington. We're left with a dangerous contradiction. Publicly, the language is of de-escalation and diplomacy, of great progress and deals just around the corner. But privately, America's most important allies in the region are delivering the opposite message, according to multiple reports. They are gripped by a panic, convinced that a premature peace will seal their doom. They are reportedly begging the United States not to relent, not to accept a flawed deal, but to continue the fight until their regional rival is brought to its knees. President Trump holds the fate of the Middle East in his hands. He is caught between the allure of a historic diplomatic victory and the private pleas of allies who believe the only path to long-term security is through continued military force. Will he listen to the global calls for peace? Or will he bow to the private pressure from Gulf leaders who argue that now is the time to finish the job once and for all? The answer will not only determine the future of Iran, but will also shape the geopolitical landscape for decades to come. If you want to keep understanding the hidden forces and secret conversations that truly shape global events, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. Let us know in the comments what you think Trump should do. Is a deal possible, or are the Gulf leaders right? Thanks for watching.